Q1187. You are operating an sUAS that does not have GPS or an installed ground speed limiter. How can you determine the speed you are operating? A. Dead reckoning. B. Pilotage. C. Wind triangle. The correct answer is A. Dead reckoning is a method of estimating an sUAS's speed by calculating the distance traveled based on the estimated heading and elapsed time. It is a basic navigation technique that relies on previously known position, estimated speed, and estimated time en route. 1188. How can a remote pilot determine the altitude of the terrain and structures where the flight will be conducted? A. Sectional chart. B. Manufacturer's data. C. Road maps. The correct answer is A. A remote pilot can determine the altitude of the terrain and structures where the flight will be conducted by using a sectional chart. A sectional chart is a type of aeronautical chart used by pilots for navigation during flight planning, and it provides important information such as terrain and obstacle elevations, airspace boundaries, communication frequencies, and navigational aids. By using the elevation information provided on the sectional chart, a remote pilot can determine the altitude of the terrain and structures and plan the flight accordingly to avoid any obstacles or airspace restrictions. 1189. You are operating an sUAS that does not have GPS or an installed altimeter. How can you determine the altitude you are operating? A. Gaining a visual perspective of what 400 feet looks like on the ground before the flight. B. Operating a second sUAS that has an altimeter to gain a visual perspective of 400 feet from the air. C. Operating the sUAS in close proximity of a tower known to be 400 feet tall. The correct answer is A. By gaining a visual perspective of what 400 feet looks like on the ground before the flight, a remote pilot can estimate the altitude they are operating their sUAS. This is a method of using visual reference points to gauge altitude and is known as sight picture. It is important to note that this method is not as accurate as using a GPS or installed altimeter and requires careful attention to surrounding terrain and structures.